All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how modern businesses take this just massive amount of raw data and somehow turn it into smart, actionable decisions.
Just think about the last time you bought something online. Every click, every search, every single item you added to your cart, all of that created a little breadcrumb of data. So, how in the world does a company take that click and use it to decide what to stock on its shelves or what price to sell it at? Well, that's the mystery we're going to solve today.
So, to make sense of this, we've got a roadmap. Think of it as the data to wisdom pyramid. See, everything starts down at the bottom, in this chaotic sea of raw data. The whole goal is to climb this pyramid step by step, turning that chaos into useful information, then into organized knowledge, and finally, right at the peak, into actual, actionable wisdom. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning with the absolute basics, understanding the huge difference between the raw ingredients and the finished product. Now, this sounds simple, but it is absolutely critical. Data is just the raw ingredients, random numbers, jumbled words, stray characters. By themselves, they mean nothing. Information, on the other hand, is the fully prepared meal. It's data that's been cleaned up, organized, and given some context, which suddenly makes it meaningful and ready to use. And here's a perfect example of what that looks like. You see this string of words and numbers on the left? That's just data. It's a mess. But watch this. With just a tiny bit of processing, just adding simple labels like name, phone, and address, it is instantly transformed into useful information. We immediately know exactly what we're looking at.
So, if data is the pile of ingredients, information is the delicious meal, then where does all the cooking happen? Well, that brings us to the heart of the company, the data kitchen, or as it's officially known, the Business Information System.
This is the engine room, folks. A business information system, or a BIS, is basically a highly structured process that's designed to do one thing really, really well. Take in raw data, use some amazing technology, and transform it into useful information that people can actually use to make smart decisions. And we're not just talking about one small part of the company. A BIS is kind of like the central nervous system for the entire organization. It's constantly feeding this crucial, processed information to every single core function, from sales and marketing trying to figure out what customers want, all the way to finance and accounting who need to keep track of the bottom line. All right, let's pull back the curtain on this data kitchen and take a look at the specific tools, the high-tech appliances, if you will, that are doing all the heavy lifting inside that business information system. First up, we've got the Database Management System, the DBMS. The easiest way to think about this is like the kitchen's perfectly organized, super secure pantry. Its whole job is to take all those raw ingredients, all that data, and store it so that it's efficient, it's safe, and it's easy to grab whenever you need it. And a DBMS does so much more than just store stuff. It actually sets up the entire structure. It lets you update and change data, and it makes sure everything stays consistent. But maybe its most important job is security and reliability. It's the system that ensures your information isn't just there, but that it's actually trustworthy. Okay, so if the DBMS is the pantry, then the Decision Support System, or DSS, has got to be the head chef. This is where things get really smart. A DSS doesn't just store the data, it actively analyzes it to help people make tough calls. It sifts through mountains of information to actually recommend what to do next. And this really gets to the core of why these systems are so essential. I mean, we are all living in a world of total information overload. No single person can process it all. A DSS is designed to cut through all that noise and focus on factual learning, which drives better, faster, and way more efficient decisions. So just how much information overload are we talking about? Well, estimates suggest that we create about 2.5 quintillion bytes of data online every single day. I mean, that's a 2.5 with, wait for it, 17 zeros after it. It's a number so massive, it's almost impossible for a human brain to comprehend, which is exactly why we need these automated systems to help us make sense of it all. And of course, to manage all these complex pieces, the pantry, the head chef, the flow of ingredients, you need a master coordinator. And that is the Enterprise Resource Planning System, or ERP. Think of it as the restaurant manager who makes sure the entire operation, from the kitchen to the servers out front, is working together from the exact same playbook. Okay, so we've got the kitchen, we've got the appliances, but with all this incredible power to collect and analyze data comes some pretty huge responsibility. So now it's time to talk about the rules of the kitchen, the ethical and legal rules that govern how this data gets handled.
Because, let's be real, a lot of this data isn't just about sales figures. It's about you. It's what we call personally identifiable information, or PII. And sure, that includes the obvious stuff like your name and address. But more and more, it's about incredibly sensitive things, like biometric data from a fingerprint, or even your genetic information.
And to protect this incredibly sensitive information, the European Union rolled out the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. And it pretty much instantly became the global gold standard for data privacy, setting really clear rules for everything from laws and policies to basic transparency. And this is where GDPR really changed the game. First, it massively expanded the definition of what even counts as personal data. But way more importantly, it gave people like you and me powerful new rights, like the right to access your data and even the right to be forgotten, which means you can tell a company to delete it. It also made everyone in the chain responsible, not just the company that collected it.
And all of this brings us to what might be the most critical question of our digital age. We've seen how businesses can turn our data into unbelievably powerful intelligence. But as these systems get smarter and smarter, it forces us all to ask, who should really hold the power over our digital lives? The companies that collect our data, or us, the people who create it in the first place?